Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Welcome back to In the Zone. Rich Sutter, Pete Coles. We are here today with a rare, it's not only rare, it's a one of a lifetime 90-minute taping because today is the day we're going to do our NBA draft, folks. Today is the day we're going to absolutely blow this episode right out of the park.
Look
I've
out.
been waiting for this. I'm like a caged tiger right now that they're about ready to let out of the cage. The reason we're going to do 90 minutes is because we wanted to take you through our normal segments of Feed 'em Fish. We're going to do that for about a half hour. So if anybody wants to kind of tune in and cut out or do what you want, we're going to do about a half hour on the fish side because there is some things to discuss on that side, some real interesting stuff in the hoop world to discuss. But right now, it don't get any better than this, Pete. Middle of June, the weather is absolutely fabulous. The Celtics are up 3-0.
Rocking and rolling.
Rocking and rolling, about ready to set an NBA record for the most titles, and that's going to be huge in Boston. That's going to resonate with the Boston fans, huge. And I want to say it now, all of you guys who made money on the fact that I told you Jaylen Brown was going to be the MVP of this series, I want you guys to start kicking back to In the Zone, baby. All right? Because he's got a really good shot. It's going to be him or Jason Tatum, one or the other. But I think at minus 600, you had a really good number there. So I hope you took advantage of it. So we're going to go right into NBA Fish to start with. And unfortunately, for our basketball world, we have another episode. We lost Bill Walton just recently. Feels like we're losing some tremendous icons in the game. And we lost Bill Walton just recently, and now another Sleeps with the Fishes episode. Jerry West, one of the all-time NBA greats, one of my heroes growing up, one of the greatest ambassadors of the game of basketball that there ever has been. And he passed away, and 86 years old, an incredible, incredible college basketball career as a player, incredible pro career as a player, and also an unbelievable NBA executive for many, many, many years. So we're very, very sad to report that Jerry West, because he was just one of the class gentlemen of the game. And let me just go down just a little bit of some Jerry West notables that I think are pretty outstanding. He's the third person in NBA history to surpass 25,000 points. He was an all-star every single year that he played in the NBA. An amazing, amazing feat and accomplishment. He was a two-time All-American at West Virginia and led them to the national championship game. I want to say that was 1959. I'm going to check back on that. His college career, 24.8 average, and it was 59, the national championship game they played in 1959. His moniker, his nickname was Mr. Clutch for his ability to make shots, and the one shot that I'll remember as Mr. Clutch was the one he dropped against the New York Knicks from about 65 feet away in a final game and almost caused Dave DeBusschere to faint right under the basket. The ball went in, and nobody could believe it. So, Mr. Clutch, I know you're up there right now, and you and Walton got a little bit of game going on up there. Rest in peace. You were one of the greats. And that's what we can say about people as they pass. You're going to be able to say about Jerry West, what an accomplishment, what a life, and what a human being. Porzingis has an injury. Pete, we talked about it a little bit. And I'm going to try and make it through what's going on with our friend, Mr. Porzingis. He was out for Game 3. Doesn't look like they're going to bring him back. It would seem almost negligent or even deleterious to bring him back right now. He has a rare injury of the left leg, and I'm going to read it out for you. He's got a torn medial retiniculum, allowing dislocation of the posterior tibialis tendon of the left leg. So that's not good. And also the NBA gave back that Luka throughout the series has been battling some injury, and he has gone into a situation where he is now taking medication and receiving injections for that pain as he goes through the series. So right now, let's just give it like it's supposed to be, Pete. Boston is on fire. Coach Mazzulla has taken this team through the playoffs in Bobby Hurley, Danny Hurley, in Hurley family fashion. They went through it, and they're going through making this tournament look easy. A lot like Bobby Hurley's Duke team did, a lot like Danny Hurley's Connecticut teams did. Right now, Coach Mazzulla, much criticized, and even on our show as well, for different things at different times. But right now, they're up 3-0, Pete, and they're absolutely just destroying the other team. They really look good on every level. Their defense is good. They're giving out an effort on defense tremendous.
Yeah.
And we noted earlier in our segments that the Celtics were one of the teams that had a pretty good number as far as defensive points allowed, and they had a really good number offensive points allowed. That's how you're going to be able to tell who's going to be a really good winning team as you look in this in the future. You know, what team is executing on both sides of the basketball? And the Celtics have done that tremendously. As we go through their lineup, the pickup of Jrue Holiday is going to turn out to be the trade that really, really solidified the Celtics as champions, because right now he's doing everything and doing it well. The job was to keep Kyrie out of the lane. I said if they could keep him out of the lane, they got a really good chance to win this series. He's done an amazing job on defense covering Kyrie. Both Kyrie and Luka are fighting for shots. They're not getting wide open looks. The Celtics are making them bring the ball down and do different things that they're not normally to do. And right now, Luka, we picked him for the MVP. But right now, in this series, he's absolutely having a terrible series, and Kyrie Irving not much better. When Kyrie Irving stepped on Mr. Lucky a while back in the midcourt of the Celtics arena, and I'm going to get Celtics fans fired up right here, he hasn't won since. You don't mess with Mr. Lucky. There's no money in that. Don't do it. And look what happened to poor Kyrie Irving. Okay, so we're going to slip right into NCAA fish because, folks, we're moving rapidly today. We've got our NBA draft to bring you, both rounds. We're pumped. I don't know what comes after super pumped, Pete, but that's about where we are right now. This is about as crazy as it gets. Before we jump into the Feed 'em Fish segment on the basketball side, because there is a little bit to talk about there, I did want to make a personal note. And the personal note was I had my ability to attend my reunion at St. Bonaventure this week, had a really, really good time, had a chance to meet our new president. And our new president posted up some serious enrollment numbers. Jeff Gingerich and his lovely, lovely wife, Betsy, are two tremendous ambassadors for our university. And it was my great pleasure to meet them this weekend, as well as hang and bang with the Bona Faithful. It's just such a special place, just such great people, and I had an absolutely fabulous time this weekend. I wanted to give the entire staff, the food was fabulous. The food on campus was fabulous, and I thought that the events and everything that they did throughout the weekend was terrific, but those enrollment numbers speak volumes, and St. Bonaventure isn't that complicated of a job for a presidency. If you get it, you get the enrollment piece, and that's what this president has displayed for us. And now to piggyback on the great work that our former president, Dennis DePero, did, who was one of my favorite people in the Bonaventure family. God rest his soul. But right now, we've got the right guy leading us. There's an exciting hire of a new athletic director. Coach Schmidt's got a new team. So we're happy about Bona territory right now. Everything's rolling good up there. The future of St. Bonaventure is so bright that we had to bring out our shades. That's what they gave us at reunion, because the future of St. Bonaventure is that bright. And President Gingrich, it was an honor to meet you. And please, don't forget about that little tip I gave you about the red beer truck. Okay, we're moving on, Pete. Rocking and rolling. Okay, I wish we had some Clash, some old Clash music from the 80s. And I'm going to give it to you right here. Nobody's going to like my singing, but Should I Stay or Should I Go Now? That's the old Clash song. Pete's going to see if we can find it real quick. That's how fast Pete is. This is how good he is. This is Should I Stay or Should I Go Now? This goes out to UConn, to Danny Hurley, to the Lakers. The first time in the history of the basketball world, the Connecticut Huskies beat the Lakers. Should I stay or should I go? Danny says, I'm staying. I'm taking the shot. I'm going for the three-peat. And well, he should. That's rarefied air to come back. And I do want to just take a quick shot at my friends out in Los Angeles because, as you know, I'm still available. Pete's my agent, and he hasn't received the call yet. And you're talking to J.J. Redick. You're talking to a guy who never coached a basketball game in his life. You've never, ever coached one game in his entire life, and that's the guy you think is going to lead the Lakers. Good luck. Good luck. But what I also wanted to say to the Lakers, the word on the street down here, and maybe up in that NBA elite tower that you all live in, you didn't know this, but the word on the street down here was that Kentucky offered Coach Hurley $14 million.
Wow.
And then how dare you challenge him with your inferior skills? With the contract that you offered him, $70 million at the going rate? That was a slap in the face. No wonder he turned you down. He had an offer of $14 million to move to Kentucky. That's not even half as far as L.A. You wanted him to come all the way across the country and take a pay cut? Okay, I don't get it. I don't get it. But Coach Hurley, he stayed. He's got a shot at three. I don't think he's got a great shot at three, but I'm not going to bet against him. But the way the roster is constructed right now, I don't know. I think there's some other teams that have loaded up that have pretty good rosters as well. But Coach Hurley decides to stay. The Husky Nation rejoiced. And right now, they're probably out there looking for that next great player if they have the room. And Coach Hurley, don't sleep on their staff. They're going to get it done. Okay, we got the green room. We have a green room here. But apparently the NBA has a green room as well. And they've invited 12 participants to the NBA green room. Now, this is a good news, bad news scenario. Because when you get invited to the green room, generally that means that they think you're going to be one of the first 12 picks chosen. Okay. I have a few of these guys not in the top 12, Pete.
Really?
Oh, I got a few of them not in the top 12. Here are the names of the people that they've invited to the green room. And we're going to go through it quick. Alex Sarr, the 7-footer out of France, projected to possibly be the number one pick. We do not have him as the number one pick. Donovan Clingan, definitely going to be in our top 12. Love Donovan Clingan. Reed Sheppard, I'm going to have to look, but I don't think he made our top 12. Matter of fact, I could almost guarantee it. Number 4, Matas Buzelis. I like this young man, international player. I like what he brings to the table. He reminds me a lot of some of the other international players, Joker, Luka, and he has that. He's got great length. He's got some abilities, and I think, I have him going pretty high. I have him going higher than some of the other international players because I wasn't totally sold on this international class this year, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Stefan Castle, 5. I'm pretty sure I do not have him in the top 12. I know Husky fans are going to be howling at this, and I know everybody has this young man very highly rated in the top of the draft. I just do not. Dalton Knecht, I don't think he made it into our top 12. I expect somebody's going to draft him in the top 12, but I do not have him in the top 12. Tidjane Salaün is also invited to the green room. I think that's a pretty good pick. I think he's 6'10", he can shoot, he can handle, he can do a lot of things. I think he's going to probably be in the top 12. Ron Holland, this is a gentleman out of the G League. I'm very high on this gentleman. I think people have him too low. We moved him up pretty high, but he certainly belongs in the green room. Cody Williams, I believe he made our top 12 as well. Young man out of Colorado, had a great year for them and did some really good stuff. Jacoby Walter out of Baylor. I don't think we have him anywhere near the top 12, folks. I'm sorry about that, but I don't think he was a green room guy for us. And then Zachary Risacher, another player out of France, and we do have him in our top 12. And so today, folks, we are about ready to start and give you our draft. I wanted to give ourselves a lot of wiggle room here because I just don't know how long this is going to take. We've never done this before. That's why I asked Pete for the 90-minute slot so that we could get into it. If I have some time at the end, we can go back, retrospect, look at some different things. But right now, I just wanted to make sure we could get both rounds in. And what I thought of previously was maybe we break it up into 2 different rounds, 2 different shows, and do round 1 and then do round 2. That's what the NBA is doing right now. And the reason I did not do that is because I thought it would be hard to hold everybody's interest into round 2 on just a whole show of round 2. Round 1 in this draft is where it's at. Okay? So now that we've done the draft, now that we've gone through it, let me talk to you in an overview fashion about this draft. It's not as good as the previous one, where you had Wembanyama, you had Scoot Henderson, you had Miller, you had the Thompson twins. That top 5 was really significant, and those gentlemen could, wind up being significant players in the NBA.
Sure.
And so what are we talking about when we say significant? Are they going to be an all-star ever in their career? If they're taken in the top 5, you might want to hope at some point in their career they're going to develop into an all-star. You saw something in there in the top 5 players in the entire group. But if you look back historically, that's not 100% by any means. So the second piece about this draft is that at least in my draft, and I'm going to take a little credit here because I think we do a better job than the mock drafts, because the mock drafts just really are deferential to the European players, regardless of whether that's warranted or not. And I think that that's a bit problematic because nobody gets to see them enough. And they get into these leagues. To be honest, when I watch some of these leagues and I watch these 6'10" guys playing, I mean, Zach Edey would average 40 and 20 in that league. They would, because some of the guys in that league are small. Those guys couldn't play in the NBA. Half of that league couldn't play in the NBA. And that's the reason they're in that league. And so you're playing against a good portion of the league where, it just wasn't there. And then when I look deeper and deeper into some of this stuff, Alex Sarr hasn't averaged 10 points in any pro league so far in his career. They're talking about him being the number 1 pick. I didn't see it there, Matas Buzelis played in the G League and put up pretty good numbers in the G League, and I think he's got a little bit more of a swing. Zachariah Risacher, again, didn't average double points in the league that he played in. And so when you looked at Victor Wembanyama, you said, oh, God, yes, no question about it. But when I'm looking at these young men right here, I didn't sway that way. And so I know the NBA people are swaying that way. And if you look at all the mock drafts and all this other stuff, I think it's interesting. But I would be interested to look at the Las Vegas odds right now about who's the number 1 pick is, because I don't think they have a clear number 1 in their head. I don't think the Atlanta Hawks have a clear number 1 in their head. And if I was the Atlanta Hawks, with the position that I'm in, Clint Capella as their center, I might think to get out of that spot. I might think to get out of that spot and maybe move down into the lower lottery with 2 picks, and you might get better value down there than you're going to get if you get this 1. So I might be looking for somebody that wants this 1 bad and then might wheel it. If I was the Hawks, that's what I'd be looking at right now. Now, the future of Clint Capella as their center, he's been around a while. Something talking about Trae Young being moved and maybe possibly winding up with the Lakers. None of that has happened yet. Some of it might happen closer to draft day. And those are some things we'll be able to update you. But that's why we wanted to be 2 weeks out on this as well. Okay? That's why we wanted to be 2 weeks out on this as well. So we're going to put up our stuff, and we're going to see how it matches out with the actual draft. And so we're going to have a show right after that draft, and we're going to talk to you about, okay, here's what In the Zone laid out. Here's where we went with it. And here's where the actual draft went. And I think if you look at some of the mock drafts that are out there right now, it's easy to get the top of a draft. But unless you build a really good middle and a really good end of the first round, you're going to have teams just grasping at straws and pulling stuff that's just outside the realm for what they should be doing. So what I did also was, because I kind of fashioned myself as a basketball fan, as well as an analyst, as well as a coach. And so when I look at all of these things, when I look at it through my coach lens, I say, would I want to coach this guy? Would I want him on my team? And so am I going to recommend him to an NBA team when I wouldn't want him on my team? And so that is a consideration of ours as well. Some of the other considerations are, well, too, is what positionally do they need? If the Spurs drafted Wembanyama, They don't need any help in that position right now. What they need to do is augment and build around that. And so I put that into my mindset as well. What will the current setup of their current roster?
What would the fit look like, right?
What was the fit? And then again, the NBA grab bag of take the best available, and we put some of that into the mix as well. Who was the best available player? There's a few caveats in this draft. One very notable caveat is that I think one of the top 20 players in the draft, Terrence Shannon, played for Illinois, had a tremendous year, a very, very good postseason as well. He is now currently standing trial for a sexual assault, and that will have a lot to do with what happens, and that will most likely not be resolved by draft day. And so what I did with Mr. Shannon was I presumed him innocent until proven guilty. And I left him in his draft spot where he would, I think, normally have been drafted if none of this occurred. Now, if something more comes of this, that's the disclaimer for all the NBA people that this could go bad later on. And so that's the risk reward as well. And so that's a piece of it as well. But in terms of what I did, in terms of my analysis, I put him right where he belonged in the draft, I thought. All right? We're coming up on 11:58, Pete. We have Adam Silver, who is normally the NBA general manager. He makes the calls. Today, he has been replaced by yours truly. Pete Coles will serve as our assistant commissioner today, associate commissioner. And I think that they should change Adam Silver's name to Adam Sliver. Because if he turns sideways, you can't see him. Somebody get him a Happy Meal. Somebody get that guy a sandwich. All right, Pete, we're ready to rock and roll. With the 2024 draft, the Atlanta Hawks, and we've talked about this a lot, they draft Zach Edey, 7'5" out of Purdue, two-time Naismith winner, two-time All-American, put up tremendous numbers. And to be honest with you, people that are saying that you should draft Donovan Clingan above Zach Edey didn't watch the final game, because that wasn't even close. All right, I love Donovan Clingan. I think Donovan Clingan is unbelievable player and going to be a good pro. But right now, in the number one spot, I am a little surprised at all of this, Pete, that a player of his caliber is this low by everybody's considerations in the draft. I don't know if that's what spurred me on to make him number one, but when I looked at everybody else, I said, if he went head-to-head with any of these guys, he'll kill them. There we go, baby. There we go. Your number one pick to the Atlanta Hawks. I hope the general manager of the Hawks is listening, because if you got Clint Capella issues, you're going to need a center. You're going to take 7'5" Zach Edey, and he's going to be unguardable in the NBA, folks. Pete, number two, the Washington Wizards are going to take Donovan Clingan. The Huskies will howl, 7'2". He also, in the combine, came up with the exact same wingspan and reach as Zach Edey. So you've got a shot blocker. You've got a defensive presence for the NBA that's going to fit perfectly into the NBA B model of a center. Going to be a high ball screener. Not going to be a guy who's going to step away and shoot too many jump shots, I don't think, but he's going to catch a lot of dunks, and he's going to change a lot of shots. I really, really like this young man, too. That's why I went with Clingan in the 2 spot. And I think our players, Donovan Clingan's a 2-time national champion. Zach Edey was a runner-up national champion. In our NCAA, I think it matters. All right, Pete, number 3, the Houston Rockets. We're going to let them go ahead. I think this is too high, but we're going to let him go ahead because there's no way he's going to last this far anyway. Alex Sarr, 7 foot, out of France. He did not average 10 points, folks. That's the knock on him for me. He's got some upside, tremendous, 7 foot. And if you look at the way we fashion this draft, we say big wins. We went after the big, and we think big wins in the NBA. Big and athletic wins. So the Houston Rockets, Alex Sarr, would fit in nicely with the Thompson twin they have there, would fit in nicely with some of the other wings. But I think, by all accounts, he's going to be gone by then. Not by our account. All right, Pete, San Antonio Spurs. Who do you put next to Wembanyama? I put Ron Holland out of the G League, 6'8", He's tremendous athlete. He can get to the basket and dunk. He can shoot the ball from the outside and score that way. He's got a very, very good NBA-ready frame right now. NBA general managers, do not be afraid to move this young man up on your charts. He can play, all right? He's very, very similar, I think, to Brandon Miller, who went out last year as a number 2 pick. Charlotte Hornets, go for it. Ron Holland in the 4 spot. Number 5, the Detroit Pistons. All right, Pete, here's where we're going to give him. Now, whoever goes to this team is getting not a contract, but a sentence. Okay, you're going to get an NBA sentence to be as close to last place as you possibly can. I'm going to say Matas Buzelis because I really, really think this young man could provide some spark and some energy to that moribund Pistons lineup and absolutely give them some upside. 6'10", he was in the G League. I worry about him as far as frame. He could get hurt, but Holmgren made it through. Wembanyama made it through. So as long as they get him the right physical conditioning and get him set, I think Buzelis, he has a chance. He's got a chance. I really liked watching him. Number 6, the Charlotte Hornets. Go back to the comments that I made about the Detroit Pistons, and instead of this being a contract, this being a sentence, you're going into Charlotte. You're going to get a big payday, but boy, you're not going to like your record. Zachary Risatcher, 6'10", out of France, young. Got some possibilities here, but they're talking about him being the number 1 pick overall, and I just did not see it. Number 7, Pete, Portland Trailblazers. Tidjane Salaün, 6'9", out of France. People are saying this might be the steal of the draft. I didn't see it. I didn't see all of that, but it could turn out that way. He's got a lot of skill and a lot of tool. So there's our first 7 right there, Pete, right off the get. And if you look at the first 7, you'll notice that only 2 of those are NCAA players. That's trending that way. That's the way things are going right now. And we're talking about our players are up against the entire world. When the international leagues were limiting the amount of Americans, they were only limiting one country. Now these gentlemen have no limits on it, and our gentlemen are fighting the entire world.
Yep.
I think it might be time for the NBA to protect our guys a little bit and find a way. They'll never, ever do it because the cash register doesn't ring that way, and that's why you also have all of these international players in the top because they're trying to sell jerseys in France. They're trying to sell jerseys all over the world, and that has plenty to do with what's going on. All right, the second pick for the Spurs. I think we did the Spurs solid here if they follow our model. Kyle Filipowski, 7-footer out of Duke, ACC star, had 2 tremendous years at Duke. He went to Wilbraham and Munson, Pete. A lot of people may not know that. Yep, attended Wilbraham and Munson, local product, but 7 foot, out of Duke, got good hands, can catch the ball. I'd like to see him improve his perimeter shooting a little bit because I think that's a little bit of the new model. But he's going to set a lot of good screens. He's going to be a high ball screener. He's going to roll, catch, and dunk. He's going to do some of those really good things. He can also block some shots. I don't see him as being quite the presence that Klingon is, and that's why I have him in the 8th spot. But if Filipowski and you bring in Ron Holland into that program, those are 2 pretty good young players to put along with Wembanyama. So I like the makeup of that right now. Wembanyama needs a body man. Okay, I'm going to say it right here. Wembanyama needs a body man. Somebody who's 7 foot, 275, who's going to get in the weight room and make it his business to make sure. Do you see what's going on with Caitlin Clark right now?
Yep.
Who's her body woman?
Nobody.
Who is it? You think Dennis Rodman would let that happen to Michael Jordan?
Nope.
Are you crazy? Michael Jordan could handle himself, but do you think Dennis Rodman's going to sit by and let that happen to Michael Jordan?
Nope.
Absolutely not. Wembanyama needs a body man, and I think Filipowski could fill that role beautifully. Memphis Grizzlies are going to take Cody Williams, 6'8", out of Colorado. Had a very good time at Colorado. Shows some unbelievable brilliance and flashes, but didn't really do it consistently for me. I know a lot of people have him a lot higher. I thought we were being pretty kind here in the 9 spot because he didn't necessarily produce, and he certainly didn't produce the same numbers as Tristan Da Silva, who we have a little bit later in the draft. So we're looking at that as a potential. We're looking at him to explode, but I think also in the NBA open floor format, he's going to really thrive because it's going to be very, very difficult to keep him away from the basket. He's an extremely good athlete. At 6'8", he can really, really go. Okay, so number 10, Utah Jazz. This is going to be a little surprise to some people, but not to me. I watched him in the Combine. I watched him at Arizona. Like this young man a lot. He's NBA ready right now. Utah Jazz, Kashad Johnson, 6'8", out of Arizona. I'm going to say a couple of different, just 3-4 different words about him. He knows how to play. 5 words, I think that was. He knows how to play basketball. He knows how to play with other teammates, and he looked really, really good in the Combine to me. Just in a few of the flashes that he showed, I really like this young man at the 10 spot. I think you're getting a pretty good player at 10. Okay, number 11, OKC Thunder. Oh, nope, Chicago Bulls. All right, so the Bulls, this is a projection pick, okay? But this is Kel Elware out of Indiana, 7 foot, runs the floor tremendously. He dunks everything. Doesn't shoot it bad either. Not bad facing it. So I really see this again. I'm going big bodies, getting in Chicago Bulls. Everybody can use a 7-footer that runs the floor like this young man can. The Bulls have a pretty good guard set. I think this should be a good pick for them right there. I think that's a bit of a steal also at 11. All right, Pete, let's roll to 12. There's the OKC Thunder. I got excited about this because we're going to pair with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, perhaps the best lead guard in the game right now, one of the best lead guards in the game right now. We're going to give him an absolute freak athlete. Adem Bona, 6'10", out of UCLA, had a great Combine, and he'd be another young body to go in there with Holmgren and just really, really smash the rim. This young man is the best athlete in the draft. Adem Bona out of UCLA. Number 13, Pete, we're getting there. We're moving and grooving. This is one of my picks that I think people will be surprised at. I'm not surprised at this pick. Go check his numbers, check his career. And this also came from my assistant coach, Wes Jackson, who likes this gentleman very, very much. Sacramento Kings at 13. Jaylon Tyson, 6'6", out of California. Go check his numbers out. Good size, good ability, and he can put the ball in the basket. That's the name of the game in the NBA, folks. Can you put the ball in the hoop? All right, number 14, Portland Trailblazers. I hate to do it to you, Tristan. I hate to do it to you, but I really think this young man has a great upside in the NBA. Tristan Da Silva out of Colorado, 6'8". He is a European-style player. He has a great ability to shoot the ball. He can put it on the deck, and he can also pass and make plays. So he's 6'8" and can do a lot of things. With Scoot Henderson, I think they'll be moving in the right direction, but they got a lot of issues out there. So I'm sorry, Tristan. I really like you a lot, but we're sending you to Portland. Okay, 15, Miami Heat. They're looking for another Jamie Jaquez. Remember that name from last year, Pete?
Yeah.
We told people this kid's a lot better than people think. He came into the NBA and absolutely lit it on fire. Now, what happens also with rookies, you'll see the great ones won't have as much of a problem with this, but you see it with freshmen in college. You also see it with rookies in the NBA. They hit the wall. Okay, they're going to hit the wall eventually because 82 games is something they've never done before. 42 airplane flights is something they haven't done before. 42 different hotels is something they haven't done before in 42 different cities. Okay, I think it's 41, but who's counting? Okay, but Jamie Jaquez did a great job. If you look towards the end of the year, he hit the wall a little bit. But I think that was a great pick for the Miami Heat. They're looking for something similar, and I think this complements some of the players that they have up front pretty well here. They have Bam Adebayo up front, and so I'm going to give him a Bam Jr., okay? I'm very high on this young man. Oso Ighodaro, 6'9" out of Marquette. He's young. He's 6'9". He's agile, hostile, and mobile, and he can absolutely do a lot of stuff around the basket. And an NBA open floor, he's going to be a little difficult to guard. In Marquette, he had a great run with Marquette. Tyler Kolek himself, they had a great run there. But this young man, I think, has a better. You can see I listed him in front of Kolek because he's 6'9". He's got a great body. You know, that's what matters in the NBA. 16, Philadelphia 76ers. We put Terrence Shannon here because that's where we thought he belonged. 6'6" out of Illinois. Tremendous college career. Tremendous college career. Now, he's a little bit of an NIL baby where they moved around a little bit and shifted and different schools and stuff like that, but he produced wherever he was. Now, there's a flag out there, unfortunately, and I left him right where I thought he should go, but there's going to be NBA executives who do not want to stake their reputation on a maybe. And so I think that's problematic. 17, Pete. 17. The Lakers, Baylor Shearman. 6'8" out of Creighton. He's a tremendous shooter, and he showed game at the Combine. I saw him as a standstill jump shooter, but I'm going to liken this young man's jump shot, feathery, soft touch of a jump shot, a lot like Chris Mullin. And if you have LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and you have Austin Reeves, you're going to need somebody that's wide open to kick to that can make that really good shot. Baylor Shearman, I thought, in the 17 spot, I think you're getting some good value there, Lakers. So I would take a look at that. And you're going to like our 55 pick too, Pete, I think. Okay, let's go to 18. Orlando Magic, Devin Carter, 6'3". I believe he's a green room recipient, but I just don't have him that high. He's one of the gentlemen that lost a significant amount of height in the Combine. You know, I had him listed at Providence at 6'6", 6'5", you know, and now comes back in socks and with no shoes. He's 6'3". Tremendous athlete. He showed him and Reed Shepherd had the two highest verticals in the Combine. So I thought that was telling. But I just, you know, I think 18's a good spot for him. He can score, really shoot the basketball. Had a very, very strong career at Providence. But 6'3" is 6'3". That's right on the borderline of being obsolete in the NBA. Once you go below 6'3", you're almost obsolete, unless you're a bad dude. And right now, you know, there's not a whole lot of that going around. 19, Toronto Raptors. People have him much higher. Reed Shepherd, I don't know why. I see him here in a pretty good spot. He had a very, very good Combine as far as physical. His vertical was the highest in the Combine. He joked about that and said they must have got the number wrong. But I think he's a very good lead guard. But I don't know. You know, tell me there's a lot of lead guards in the NBA that are just like him. You know, maybe he turns out to be Steve Nash, and maybe he turns out to be more like Graham Nash and winds up as a lounge singer. I don't really know. But I don't have him as high as everybody else does. Reed Shepherd, 6'3" out of Kentucky. I'm going to send him to Toronto. That's just as bad as some of those other places, unfortunately. He can go up there with Scotty Barnes, and they'll both get to shoot it every other time down the floor, though. All right, Pete. Number 20, Cleveland Cavaliers. A lot of people have this guy much higher. Dalton Knecht, 6'7", out of Tennessee. He probably was the portal Pirate of the Year for us. He's a gentleman who went through the portal, played somewhere, and then finally got a shot to play in the big time, and he absolutely rang the bell. I got no issue with that. And his ability to move up from where he was, I want to say northern Colorado, to Tennessee shows that he could handle that jump. I think the jump from Tennessee to Cleveland is going to be a huge one. I liken him a little bit to Grady Dick and the other guy, Jordan Walsh, that the Celtics had, where I just see him having a very difficult transition into the NBA life with the physicality. I like him as a player. And I think he can do some good things. I think 20 is a pretty good spot for him. I certainly don't have him in the top 5-7 picks. Pete, number 21, New Orleans Pelicans. Now, this is going to be a steal for somebody, I think, all right? And I'm going to put him right next to Zion, so you're going to have a little lefty-on-lefty violence here to go. We're going to go bang-bang with the this young man, 6'7", out of Kentucky. I watched him in the Combine. I don't know why he didn't get a whole lot of time at Kentucky. He was a young freshman, decided to go. People shook their heads at saying, why would he go into the NBA draft? I think he's ready. At 21, I think the Pelicans are getting a steal. And if the NBA GMs have been really paying attention, Tristan da Silva and Justin Edwards might be two people that you want to move up on your chart. All right, Pete, we're rolling and strolling down here. The Phoenix Suns, they got a lot of old men on that team right now. If you watch Beal, he could barely play games this year. Kevin Durant had a good year, but he ain't getting any younger. And Booker, I don't know what happens, to some of these guys out there. He just seemed a little older to me as well, too. They are really, really team that's going to probably need to be revamped very, very quickly in the near future. I like Isaac Jones, 6'9" out of Washington State. Got a big body. He's got an NBA-ready body. He's got great hands, good gloves. I think he could really do some damage in the NBA, but he's a lot like, and I'm going to name a couple of guys right now, Adem Bona, Oso Ighodaro, Isaac Jones. They're just a little bit undersized for that center position, and they're a little bit underskilled for that 4 position in the NBA with the Euro setup right now. So I'm interested to see how that goes. Adem Bona is a tremendous athlete, and I think he'll be able to get by. But Isaac Jones is one of those guys that has me scratching my head just a little bit. Number 23, Pete. Yes, sir. The Milwaukee Bucks. You have Giannis. You have Middleton. Brook Lopez looks old to me. He's older than dirt right now, probably. So I think, you're going to be looking at some bigs. I really like N'Faly Dante. He reminds me a little bit, not quite the player, obviously, but he reminds me of Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon a little bit, where he's got some very, very fluid movements around the basket, and he's 6'10", 6'11", runs like a track star. So I really, really think Oregon did a great job with him. They made a tremendous run into the NCAA tournament this year, and this young man was one of the pieces of that. I think at 23, you're going to be getting some good value there, Milwaukee, especially given your center position situation that you currently have. All right, Pete, let's roll to 24. New York Knicks. The Knicks right now are in a similar position to the Brooklyn Nets last year, when the Brooklyn Nets took Noah Clowney and Dariq Whitehead. Neither one of those gentlemen really got into the lineup too much, played. I believe some of them might have went down and played in the affiliates, and some of them might have also cost two-way contracts. I didn't really go for Dariq Whitehead. He was at Duke and produced okay there, but I didn't really think that he was NBA ready. Clowney, I thought, might have a little bit more NBA prospect to him. I think he'll be okay in time. But he's also 6'10", and he's one of these gentlemen who is 6'10", who desires to sit outside and shoot the perimeter all the time. And you're 6'10", you might want to mix it up and get around the basket and do some stuff. Because if you're going to go into a three-point shooting contest with Steph Curry, you're going to lose. Jaden LeDee, 6'10". I don't know what happened here. Okay, you go back and look at this young man's stats. Go back and look at his career. He's one of the linchpins of the San Diego State run 2 years in a row. Final Four the year before, and they went very, very far until they ran into that UConn freight train this year. They, were cooking pretty good, San Diego State. And you sit there and go, wow, how did that all happen? Jaden LeDee, 6'10", he's ready. I don't know what happened when he was in a part of the invite to go to the combine, and he was playing in this kind of a tournament setup, and I thought playing very, very well, but did not get an invite to the combine. I couldn't understand that. But at 6'10", with the numbers that he put up at San Diego State, I think Jaden LeDee, you go down this list again, you might be general managers, that might be one of those guys you want to slide up depending upon your needs. Okay, so the Knicks are going to take LeDee at 25. Here is my international sleeper for you, Pete. I'm going to give him to the Knicks at 25 because what I see with the Knicks is Brunson's terrific. They're going to hold on to Hart. He's terrific. They got the Nova thing going with Double D, Dante DiVincenzo. They got OG Anunoby, who's going to be a really good player if they can re-sign him and get him to go. But I think, Mitchell was in and out so much this year. The Knicks need help on the front line. So I'm going to give him Jaden LeDee and Ariel Hukporti, 6'10", out of Germany. I think this young man would be in the NBA already if he hadn't suffered some injuries. But if you watch this guy on film, you look at some of the stuff he does, knowing that you have Jalen Brunson, knowing that you have Hart, knowing that you have DiVincenzo, go with Jaden LeDee and Ariel Hukporti. You got two body men down there that can bolster your lineup and get you going. He's 6'10", and he, like Adem Bona, I think if he's healthy, he's one of the best athletes in this draft. Knicks could do themselves well there. 26, Wizards. All right, we're going to get a lot of heat for this. We're going to get a lot of flack for this. Bring it on. okay? Because we gave you Trace Jackson Davis last year as a lottery pick, as a top 20 pick, and everybody gave us flack for that. So Stephon Castle is, people are talking about number 1, number 5, a lottery pick. I believe he's in the green room. I just don't have him there. I think he's going to be a good pro. I think he's going to be terrific. But I think he's also been a beneficiary of playing on a really, really good team where it was hard to focus in on just 1 or 2 guys. And so he got to roll out there a little bit, freebird, and that's not going to happen in the NBA. 6'6", doesn't shoot it great from the perimeter, has the ability to get in and mix it up, and he's an excellent basketball player. But I got him at 26 with the Wizards. I think the Wizards would do fine to pick him there. I don't have him any higher than that. 27, again, another green room guy, Pete. And either we missed by a really, really long shot or they missed by a really, really long shot. That's why I love doing this. Because when I got that green room list and I had already done most of my work, I said, throw it out. Don't even look at it. It's a poltergeist. Don't even glance at it because
it's a red herring.
It will impact my thinking. It will create a bias in here that I don't want right now. Okay? And so Jacoby Walters, 6'6" out of Baylor. Somebody, please tell me what he did at Baylor this year, which says he's in the top picks of the top 12. Somebody go dig out his numbers, and they're okay. They're not great. Baylor had a very good year. They had a very loaded team as well. But I just don't see it. You know, they're projecting, and I get it, but 6'6" guard, doesn't shoot it great. His percentages were just okay. I'm sorry, Jacoby, but we got you in the 27th spot. There's other people here who have a lot of people in this first round. We don't have them. Sorry. 28. 28, Pete. The Nuggets, boy, they're going to try and get back. They're going to try and get back. And I think if you really look at the Nuggets this year, I think you want to say, they probably had some guard issues there where you got Joker, you've got some other really good players on that team, and you have Jamal Murray as your scoring asset. I think you need somebody to run the show. And Tristan Newton right here was the best point guard in the NCAA by far this year. His unbelievable. Kolek was terrific, and there was some other good players. KJ Simpson was terrific as well. But Tristan Newton, he took that UConn team and he put them on his back and ran them through that tournament and did an unbelievable job of running their very complicated offense. UConn's offense is no joke. I've seen it. I've looked at it in depth. It's really, really complicated, and it requires some significant stewardship. And I think that that's a little bit undernoted with Newton, is that he handled that whole boat, and him and Hurley were simpatico on the court. He knew what Danny wanted, and Danny knew what he wanted, and they both would be able to go at it, I thought, in a very, very consistent way as coach and point guard. And you don't see that as much anymore. Tristan Newton right there, I think the Nuggets can get a really good shot there. And I think that he'll add value to their team because they need that. Bring a two-time championship to their champions, so he'll understand the culture. All right, Pete, 29. And before we go a step further, I sent this to Pete last night at around 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. I was busting it, boom, 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 and change this, change that, all over the place. I got more paper flying around my house right now than you can shake a stick at. My wife's ready to kick me out to the backyard. All right, but I sent this to Pete at 11 o'clock last night, and look at the turnaround we get here, folks. That's why he's MVP Pete. And also, I put this up on my Facebook page the other day. Pete called this Boston Celtics Mavericks series down to the wire. He gave it exactly the way it was going to go, and that was unbelievable. He gave it out exactly the way it went down. All right, so we're in with the Utah Jazz. Yves Missi played on Baylor too. Jacoby Walters, teammate, 7-footer. Really the Model B of the NBA prototype. He's going to block shots. He's going to run the floor. He's going to dunk. But I don't think you're going to see him outside shooting too many jump shots. That's why I moved him down a little bit. I know some people have him a little higher. I think that's a pretty good spot for him. And I think Utah could use him. Utah needs some help up front. And here we go. This is what happens when you win it all. When you're the number one team in the zone, top power 15 all year long. There's rewards for that, which is going to be the NBA title. And then there's penalty for that because you get the absolute last pick in the first round. I'm going to go out on a limb here, Pete. And I know that people will think that this is a little crazy. Okay, but in the 30 pick, the Boston Celtics are going to take Quinton Post, 7-footer out of Boston College. I watched him in the combine. He's 7 foot. He's legit. And I think the Celtics could use a bit of a body man. He'll go in there and bang. He'll go in there and hit it. And his numbers at BC were terrific. And the thing that I saw was he was very physical in the combine. He was looking to pound it, looking to get after it inside with people, and I really like that. Had a really good career at Boston College, very kind of under the radar career, but I'm going to give him the top spot there in the 30 spot because he's 7 foot, and we went big. When we say big, we mean big. So Quinton Post will close out the first round, Pete. What did you think, Pete? We got a couple of minutes before we jump in. I need a ginger ale shot here because my mouth just went to Sahara Desert length. What do you got?
I think it looks pretty good. Like you said, it's not as stacked as last year, but there's a lot of good positional players out there. The big men aren't there that were there last year, but there's a lot of good positional fit players out there. And I think that's what these teams need to start building around the guys they got last year.
And that's kind of the way we went with this. People are going to scratch their head and go, Quinton Post, and I'm going to say watch him play. But I'm going to say also he fits a need for the Celtics.
Yeah.
Do they need a point guard when you have Jrue Holiday?
Nope.
Do they need a 2 guard when you have Jaylen Brown?
Nope.
Do you need a forward when you have Tatum? Those guys are 26 years old. You don't need it.
No.
So what do you need? You need body men. You need people that are going to keep people off of them, rebounders, shot blockers, people around the basket that are going to keep it right for you. Now, they got away this year with playing Horford and Porzingis sometimes in the center position, and because they were so fluid offensively, they could get away from that. But right now, I think, there was a lot of ways to go with that pick. I wanted to keep the young man home. Boston College, probably a dream of his to play for the Celtics, being right there local in Boston, and it'll give the fans something to cheer about. All right, Pete, we're ready to go on to the second round. Toronto Raptors, 31st pick. This young man, this is one of the situations that I think, again, NCAA is the toothless wonder that it is. They have no gums. They got no bite no more. They got nothing left. Isaiah Collier could possibly have a damages lawsuit because the NCAA made him go to college. If this bears out, if my draft bears out, I think people are going to see that. Because if he went out last year without going to college, I'd say he would have been selected in the top 10 picks. Now, after going to college for 1 year, he's not going to be in the first round. And I think that the NCAA has a lot to do with that. The one and done rule needs to go, folks. The one and done rule is anti-American. The one and done rule is restraint of trade. Needs to go. If they're ready to go into the NBA has to be on point, sharp enough to be able to decipher. We want them, we don't want them. But there was a whole lot of people that would have taken Isaiah Collier a whole lot earlier, and maybe I'll be wrong, and I'll stand down, and he'll get taken in the top 10 this year. But I'm pretty sure, Pete, that he would have been taken in the top 10 if he had not attended college. They harmed him. They harmed him by forcing him to go to college. Now, the NIL might have made it a little bit easier out there in California, USC. I get all of that, but the NCAA needs to step with the law. They need to get into consignment with the law. They need to get into conformity with the law. And for years, what you're looking at right now was the NCAA flaunting their nose at the law, telling people you can't work, you can't do this, you can't use your image, to go out and make money. It's unbelievable. But they had no problem using those same images to make money.
Yep.
All right. Got a little fired up there, Pete. We'll get back on track here. Isaiah Collier going out in the first pick of the second round. Utah Jazz, 32. P.J. Hall. This young man led Clemson. Did a really, really great job with them this year. He's 6'8". He shoots the ball terrific from the perimeter. He's got a big frame. He doesn't mind banging around. And I think he could be a serviceable NBA player. If you're going to get P.J. Hall in the second round, I don't think you're doing too bad. All right, Pete, we're rolling. Milwaukee Bucks. This young man, everybody has him much, much higher. Everybody has this young man much, much higher than I do. Okay? He's another gentleman who took a haircut when he went to the combine. He was 6'4" and came out of the combine 6'1". All right, and I think he's mercurial. I think he can score the ball, but they're not going to give him the ball every single time down the floor in the NBA. He's not going to be the lead guy on the floor in the NBA. If he went to the Milwaukee Bucks, you're looking at a guy named Giannis, who's their kind of big guy over there. They got a guy named Middleton. They got Lopez. They got a whole bunch of other guys that are going to get their name called before Rob Dillingham does. And I don't know that he's going to be able to exist in that type of frame. Every time he had the ball at Kentucky, he could catch it, shoot it, and he was effective. But that's not going to translate to an NBA team where there's a big alpha dog in that lineup, and there's a bunch of other guys in that lineup that have been around for years and years and years. They're not just going to let you take the ball and shoot it every single time.
Yep.
6'1". We have him at 6'2" there, but that's right on the Mendoza line of being irrelevant in the NBA, folks. I got news for you. Go get me the names of all of those players that are under 6'3" in the NBA that are killing it. Go ahead, I'll wait. All right, let's go. We're killing it today, Pete. We're killing it. Portland Trailblazers, a lot of people have this young man higher, and I think the numbers that he put up at Weber State would dictate a little bit higher, but it's also Weber State. We're going to bell curve that. We're going to factor it in. He did put up great numbers, but I thought he looked a little lost to me during the combine. I think the speed of that combine, he was a little bit out there. And I saw him, and I wanted to watch him, keep a careful eye on him. And that's why we moved Justin Edwards way up into a position where a lot of people have Dylan Jones. I thought Edwards was a much better player, and I thought Jones looked a little bit West Coast shy out there. All right, Pete, we're kicking it. We're rolling it. San Antonio Spurs. I'm going to go with Tyon Grant Foster here, 6'7" out of Grand Canyon. Kind of a good story. Worked his way up, really, really improved his game, gotten better. But he's 6'7", and he's long, and he's a lot like Bones Highland, who is from VCU. And so if San Antonio is going to go with Holland, in that spot, and you're going to go, maybe with a bigger body man, Filipowski, that we predicted those two spots go to, I think Tyon Grant Foster in the second round would be a very, very nice pick for them. I think he's a good-sized guard that can help you and can guard a couple of different positions. All right, Indiana Pacers. Now, this is a gentleman that could go a lot of different ways. He could be a really great player in the NBA, or he might be a bust. I'm not 100% sure. A very short time in the collegiate ranks. That's why I moved him down a little bit. I like to see people stick around and produce or not go at all. The one and done to me really isn't cool. I don't like that, and I think it creates a little bit difficult of a paradigm to evaluate from. Johnny Furphy, 6'9", out of Kansas. This young man has a rocket in his sneakers, though. He can get off the floor, he can dunk, he can run, and so he really, really could fit well into an NBA set, or he might be injured on day one and gone for the rest of his life. Couldn't tell, Pete. 37. All right, the Minnesota Timberwolves. Again, a lot of people moved this gentleman up because he stuck around. I think if Jaron Holmes came out last year, he would have been in the same exact spot as he did when he went back to Dayton. I think that Dayton had a great year, and he had a great year, but I think that it didn't really help him to go back because I think he's NBA limited. I think he was a big, strong NCAA center that got away with being very physical and pushing people around at 6'9", 6'10", but that's not going to happen in the NBA. He's going to have to finesse his game a little bit, and that's one of the guys that we mentioned, aforementioned, Dembona, Iguodala. Jaron Holmes fits right into that category of, is he big enough to play center, and is he skilled enough to play the forward spot? Those are the things that make you go, Pete. All right, 38. 38, we're back to the Knicks. Saw this gentleman in the combine and liked him. I think the Knicks can always use some good perimeter shooting when you have a Brunson and you have an OG Anunoby, who are pretty good, talented, athletic players. You're going to need somebody to spot up and shoot. A.J. Johnson, 6'5", out of Australia. I liked him. Saw him in the combine. I liked him. And I think it's a pretty good value pick here, especially if you follow suit and take Jaden Ledee and Ariel Hawkporty, the two that we gave the Knicks prior, and then you fill in with A.J. Johnson. I think that's pretty good. The one thing that you're going to have to also realize is these teams with a lot of these picks, and this is something that'll make you kind of get consideration, because a couple of weeks ago we lauded the Knicks for the position that they have the franchise in right now, with all of the draft picks and all of the really good future look. But you also got to look now, can A.J. Johnson as a second pick make their team? And
Sure.
if he can't make their team, then you should have traded the pick for something other of value. You know, a later on something other pick, or combine some picks to get a better pick. But right now, you know, that 38 pick with the Knicks roster, it'd be like going to the Celtics when they took Jordan Walsh last year. You know, is he going to make the team? I don't know. Now, Walsh was in and out and doing that as well, but when you have limited space on your roster, you know, you just drafted 4 players. By definition, not all 4 of them can make that team. All right, we're moving and grooving here, though, Pete. We're really doing well. Memphis Grizzlies, this is a combine pick of mine. Enrique Freeman, small school Akron, 6'11". UMass is going to get a taste of that league next year as they join that league. It's a good league, but it's a mid-major league as well. But this young man, 6'11", possesses some good skill, can do some different things, and really, really impressed during the combine. I wouldn't have had him most likely on my draft board at all had I not seen him in the combine and got a chance to look at him. And 6'11", we're in the bigs this year. Okay, so Enrique Freeman, there we go. Portland Trailblazers, another big. This is a G League product, and this is another big that I really, really did not know about, did not see a whole lot of, and I'll give you who they are. One is this young man, Izan Almanza, 6'10", out of the G League. I think the Blazers could use something like that up front. He's got a little bit of strength deficit as well, but you're going to see some of these people, like the young man that we mentioned from Akron just a minute ago, Enrique Freeman. You're going to see some of these picks that, you know, weren't necessarily on everybody's radar, but I like them and I'm throwing them in there, especially the pick of Ariel Hokporty. I'm going to give him my Trace Jackson Davis Award this year. I think he's NBA ready. I think if the Knicks get him at 25, that's a pretty good pick. And I think if you get him any later than that, it's a steal. Okay, so maybe the Knicks would wait, you know, and take him later in the second round. I don't know. 41, Pete. 41. The Philadelphia 76ers. A lot of people had this young man moving up a little higher. They had him in the first round. He's from 6'5", from Minnesota, Cam Christie. I didn't see it. I had watched him a little bit during the year. I don't even think he was the best player on Minnesota's team. And right now, I think he's okay. I think he'll be serviceable when you come to an NBA team. But again, I don't know what the Sixers, you know, they got a loaded roster there. I don't know that they have a whole lot of room for a player like that. Cam Christie proved me wrong, hopefully for sure. Okay, Pete, 42. I like this pick at 42. Trey Alexander, proven NCAA winner for Creighton, 6'5". He's got the good size you like at point guard. He shoots it well. He handles it well. I think out of the lead guards that are out there right now that you would look at, I think, you know, if you're looking at Trey Alexander as a second-round pick, I think you're getting a steal. I think you're getting a steal there because I think he's going to make an NBA roster and be a good player. I don't think he's going to be a fabulous player in the NBA, but I think he's going to be a good one. And I think he's going to be able to handle his business at 6'5". So I like his size. I love what he did at Creighton. And there were times when Creighton is like with Baylor Shearman and the big man that they have in there, they're very formulaic. Coach does a great job. McDermott does a great job with them. Very formulaic at times, though. But there are times when you need somebody just to bust it and break out of that formula and show a little bit of creativity. And when they needed that to happen, Trey Alexander was the guy they went to, and I think that's pretty telling. So I think that would be a really good pick for the Charlotte Hornets. Again, Trey, I'm sorry. We're sending you to Charlotte. Okay, Miami Heat. I think this would be a really good pick for them. This could be a Jamie Jaquez type pick. This guy fell off the radar because he got hurt at the very end of the year during Kansas's playoff run, and also it held him out. It was a hand injury. It held him out of the combines as well. So a lot of people don't know about this young man. He had an unbelievable career at Kansas, and Kansas is one of the best of the best. I think Kevin McCullough at 43 for Miami Heat, Spoelstra and the boys, Pat Riley, wake up. You might be able to grab this guy late, and he's going to be a good pro in my opinion. Okay, Pete, we're cooking it with kerosene, gasoline, and propane. 44 to Houston Rockets, Jamal Sheed. I don't know if this guy's even going to get drafted, but he is so tough. He is so junkyard dog. I love this guy. In the combine, he did well, but he's another guy that took a haircut in the combine. They had him listed much bigger than this, and now it comes out he's 6'1", and I don't even know if he was 6'1", but he's tough as nails. And he
sounds
played,
like another Rodman.
Yeah, except Rodman was 6'8",
Okay.
and this guy's 6'1". But he possesses all of those things that Dennis Rodman did, for sure. Toughness, heart, determination. I mean, he was one of the guys that led Houston for that whole thing. But again, the carryover into the NBA game. I'm going to leave him in Houston, though, Pete. The Rockets taking him out of the University of Houston. Maybe that'll drive their fan base a little bit. But I just gave it to him in a 44 spot. I don't know if he'll even get drafted, but I like this young man. We'll see next week. We'll see in 2 weeks when they have their actual draft. All right, Pete, 45. Pete, this is your first time doing a draft, and you're killing it. Absolutely killing it. 45, the Sacramento Kings are going to take Jonathan Magbo, 6'7", out of San Francisco. There's a lot of NBA people really curious about this young man, and I can see why. He's got the body, he's got the rhythm, he's got the bounce, and I think he's got the numbers out at San Francisco that are telling. He's got some pretty good numbers. He showed up in a couple of different categories out there. He scored the ball well, and he also rebounded well. And San Francisco, you know, this isn't Bill Russell's San Francisco. You know, they haven't been great in a long time, and Magbo did a great job of carrying them. And I think 45, you're going to go in 45. Not a bad pick. Not a bad pick at 45. 46, the Clippers. I'm going to go with Tyler Kolek here, Pete. I'm going to go with him here. His ankle injuries bother me a little bit. He's a really good point guard, but he's going to spend a lot of time in Europe. I don't think he's ever going to make an NBA team. I think he's a good player. I think he's terrific, but a lot like Reed Shepherd, show me a lot of guys that are leading NBA teams right now that look like those guys. And I don't, you know, I'm not casting aspersions. I think they're both great players, but I think when that jump comes from going all the way into, you know, being a Big East player and going into, you know, other great leagues, no question, but now you're making that jump and you don't have the athletic ability, you don't have the body, you don't have all of those other things that everybody else has, you're at a detriment. And I see Tyler Kolek in that situation. I also see him, you know, those ankle injuries can become really chronic and can really become problematic. And the amount of games he's going to be playing in the NBA, I think he's better off heading out, getting an agent and heading out to Europe, trying to find a contract there. All right, Pete, let's move it. 47, Orlando Magic. I think this would be a steal. But again, this is what scared me. I would have had David Jones a little bit higher. But this is what scared me. Another guy who took one of the biggest haircuts in the combine. He came out, you know, he's 6'6" and came out 6'3". You know, he lost more height than almost anybody in the combine, but he can score the basketball. He averaged over 20 a game this year. He played from Memphis. He was at St. John's. I think Rick Pitino really probably should have reconsidered that move when they moved him out to Memphis. Maybe tried to get a little bit more earnest with him and get him to stay, because he had a tremendous year out in Memphis, averaged 20 a game, and St. John's didn't have that guy. St. John's didn't have that bucket guy that we say, okay, it's late, we need a bucket. Who do we go to? And David Jones was that guy. I think for the Orlando Magic, the question with Mr. Jones is, can Mr. Jones play the point guard spot? And if he can, he's going to be really good. If he can adjust and move over to the point guard spot, I think he's going to be a solid pro. If he tries to fashion his wares as a two guard, I think he's going to have some problems. That's just a feel because of the size deficit. There's not a lot of guys, 6'3", playing two guard in the NBA that are killing it right now. If you could, send me a list of those guys' names, and we'll go through it with you on In the Zone on a later show. Okay, Pete, 48. We've only got 10 picks left after this one. Bobby Klintman, 6'9", out of Sweden. He's played, you know, in the States as well. Has a very solid European game. I think if you added him with Holland and Filipowski, I think that'd be a good fit. I think that'd be a good fit building around that. But again, how many openings do the San Antonio Spurs have on their roster? And can you fit all four of these guys that you just drafted? If not, maybe you should have looked at an NBA, you know, solid guy rather than bringing in all these rookies that may not make your team. Okay, Pete, we're down into it now. Indiana Pacers. I don't think anybody's going to have this young man on his draft board, and I'm not sure why. Armando Bacot, 6'10", out of North Carolina. He runs the floor well. He's big, strong, very physical, can do a lot of things around the basket. He's not the guy you're going to call for the last jump shot of the game by any means, but he's going to be a very, very potent basket guy around the NBA, I think. He can get to the baseline, going to stay out of the way. He's going to be similar to Derek Lively from Duke, where Derek Lively's a little bit taller, a little bit more athletic, but Baycoat is just going to run the floor, get to the baseline, and be an effective player that way. So I think at 49, if you get Armando Baycoat, I'm not sure why people aren't talking about him, but they should be, at least in this realm right here, for sure. Okay, we're up to 50, Pete. Indiana Pacers, they go back-to-back here. So you could get Baycoat, which would be good. And I like this young man. I don't know why he's not on anybody else's draft board, but again, we're going big. Joel Soriano played for St. John's for Rick Pitino. He started off his career at Fordham. He's a New York young man, 7-footer. I think he's going to, if he gets the right NBA setup, he can be a good NBA backup. He can be a good NBA pro. Okay, Pete, we're cooking it. The Washington Wizards go with Carlton Carrington, 6'4", out of Pittsburgh. A lot of people have this gentleman much, much higher than he is. And this is another one-and-done creature. Came in, had a decent year. He shows up in a lot of different categories, but I just don't know what position he's going to play in the NBA right now. And if I don't know positionally what you're going to do, then I have a little bit of a problem. Another guy, 6'7", 6'6". Wow, he's 6'4". Took a haircut at the combine. So he was out of Pittsburgh, stayed 1 year. He's a gentleman that I would have liked to see go back, for one more, and then prove it again, come out, and then we'd have a better resume to work with on a better team as well. That's what some of these gentlemen don't understand as well. Playing on a really good team makes you look better. And so Pittsburgh has been struggling and struggling and struggling. Now they're ready to turn the corner, except you turn yourself into an NBA second-round pick. If you went back, took your NIL money, you're going to have a really good team. You may be finishing the top of the ACC next year, maybe get into Le Grand Ball, the big dance, and then you can show your wares. But right now, I didn't see enough of this young man to warrant him as a first-round pick like some other people have him, and his numbers aren't great either. Carlton Carrington, 51, 6'4", out of Pittsburgh. I think there's a possibility he doesn't get drafted at all. Okay, 52, Pete. And I got to tell you, Pete, we're moving and grooving here on the time. We're going to be good. Golden State Warriors, Jalen Bridges, 6'7", out of Baylor. He's a physical player. He's scored pretty well. A lot of people have him a whole lot higher than this. I do not. I don't have either one of those Baylors, Jacoby Walter or Jalen Bridges, all that high. I could be proven wrong. I have Yves Missy a little bit higher than that, but those three gentlemen are NBA picks for sure. I just didn't have them in the same heightened spot that everybody else did. But Jalen Bridges is going to bring something to the table in terms of his body, his athleticism, and he handles the ball pretty well for a big guy too. So he's going to be one of those guys that can play out a little bit, play in a little bit. But, you got Steph Curry, you have Klay Thompson, you have Draymond, you have all of these pieces. Where are you going to fit all these guys? So, again, this might be a guy that winds up in the G League, could be a two-way guy. But, again, I don't understand why you didn't go back to Baylor, Jalen. Why didn't you go back there? Have a great team. They have an unbelievable team right now, Baylor. If you had gone back there, or maybe Jacoby Walters stayed for 2 years, you're going to win the national championship. And instead, you're coming out here now for short money. Jalen Bridges, 6'7" at Baylor. Maybe you go into the first round next year if you go back. I don't get this. I don't understand it. And especially when you have some pretty good NIL deals out there. Some of these gentlemen, you saw all the Lamborghinis pulled up outside of Texas the other day. There's some of these gentlemen are doing okay. So the life in college ain't as hard and arduous as it used to be. I'd say, maybe stick around. Maybe go back, because right now you're going to wind up in the back end of this thing. You're not going to make an NBA team. You might get stuck in the G League, and you ain't going to be making as much in the G League as you would have been if you got a good NIL. That's why the G League's in trouble right now, Pete. Because the NIL is coming out with better deals than the G League has. The NILs are better than the WNBA top contract by a lot. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's keep it moving. 53, the Detroit Pistons. I don't know. I wanted to throw this guy in here because he was the heart and soul of this UConn team this year. And I think when you get to the NBA, he's going to have a kind of a specific role in the NBA where if you leave everybody else open, he's going to kill you. And he's going to be a wide open shooter, a lot like Grayson, from Duke, who's formed a really, shooting almost 50%. in the NBA right now. But I think Cam Spencer, 6'5", I just love his work ethic. I love the way he approaches the game. And I don't know if he's ever going to make it in the NBA because of his athleticism, but he's a guy you want on your team. If you need somebody to hit some big shots, that's going to be your guy. If you leave that young man open, he's going to crush you. 54, Pete. Boston Celtics. Let's go with Harrison Ingram, 6'6", North Carolina. A lot of people thought he dropped a good bit in the combine, and I was almost in agreement with that. But he can still score the basketball, and he's a very good face-up shooter. And if you're on the Boston Celtics, they don't need you to do a whole lot. They need you to fit that open spot, step into that open shot, and hit the jump shot when they have 3 guys hanging on Jaylen Brown, when they got 2 guys handcuffing Tatum. That's when they need that guy to step up. And if Spencer was available for the Celtics, I think that wouldn't be a bad grab for them as well, because he's a deadly shooter. And the Celtics, if they find enough shooting the way they're going right now, because they're definitely trending towards having a good defense, but also having that very, very fluid offense where all 5 guys can score the basketball. This young man, if they can get Peyton Pritchard to fit in there, I think Cam Spencer could too as well. All right, Pete. Harrison Ingram, though. That's who was left for them. Here we go, Pete. I knew you were going to love this one. Los Angeles Lakers, 55, second round. I don't think it would be a bad pick here. I don't think he's draftable. I'm going to go out and say it right now. He does not have the numbers to put up in the NBA right now. Doesn't have the numbers on the NCAA draft side to warrant getting drafted.
Yeah.
Okay? But he is the son of LeBron James. He is the heir to the throne. And what I said when I proposed that trade where LeBron would go to the Knicks and you'd take a couple of the Nova boys and move them over, everybody went crazy. You can't break up that chemistry. Can't break up that. No. We're talking about $1 billion in franchisement if you move LeBron James and his son onto the same team. So if the Lakers get it and they got a 55th pick here with the round, and looking around at who's left, take them, because it's going to be dollars. It's really, really going to be dollars. Now, who gets to coach them? When you got the old man telling you need to put my son in the game? I don't know. I don't know who wants that. But you're gonna sell a lot of jerseys. You're gonna sell a lot of hats. You're gonna sell a lot of everything. The NBA is a business, and on that level, the only level, I'm gonna say the Los Angeles Lakers will take Bronny James with the 55th pick, 6'2" out of USC. All right, Pete, 56. Denver Nuggets, Keyshawn George, 6'7" out of Miami. A lot of people have him a lot higher. I don't know why. Jacoby Walters, Keyshawn George, some of the other guys we aforementioned, they didn't do enough to warrant this. So you're either drafting them on the potential that they didn't show yet, or saying they're going to be able to do it in the future as they get older, bigger, and stronger. I don't know about this young man, but at 56, I think you'd be getting a pretty good player. So I think another young man should have turned around to Coach Larranaga and said, I'm coming back. Or should have jumped out into the waters and said, yo, Cal, I'll come to Arkansas. Hey, Coach Pope, I never really been to Kentucky, but I'd like to take a look around. You could do that as well. But I think coming into this second round, as we looked at this draft, coming into the second round, I'm going to say from 45 to 58, going to have a really hard time making a team. Maybe you would have been better off staying. I don't know. All right, Pete, we're going to go with Keyshawn George for the Nuggets. Memphis Grizzlies, Pal Larson, 6'5", out of Arizona. He's got some skill. He's got some ability. He looked lost in the combine. A lot of people have him much higher than this because of what reason I couldn't tell you. But they have him much, much higher than this, and I don't see it. Pell Larson, 6'5", out of Arizona, 57th pick. We're going to give it to him there. Dallas Mavericks, Pete. I think they could use a point guard help. Jared McCain, 6'3", out of Duke. He'd be a solid guy for them. I don't think Jared McCain's going to be a great pro by any stretch of the imagination. I do have a lot of people that drafted him a lot higher than in that spot. I don't have him that high. I don't have him as high as Tristan Newton and some of the other players that are those lead guards. Reed Shepherd, I think, could be better than McCain. I think Kolek a little higher, but I don't think either one of them. McCain maybe, because I think the Mavericks could use a little bit of help. up there. This is kind of a positional draft for them as well. So with the last pick of the NBA draft, the Dallas Mavericks will take Jared McCain, 6'3", out of Duke. And that concludes round 1 and round 2. Okay, so I want to give you a little bit of information here to close out the show, and then we're going to just go and talk a little bit about some of the stuff that's going on right now in the series. So, what the draft looks like to me, as we just went through it, round 1, round 2, you're going to have not as much at the top, but as Pete alluded to, you're going to have a little stronger middle, I think, than you did last year, because as we talked about last year, I thought picks like 12 through 17 through 18 kind of fell off the map last year, and I really weren't strong picks, and a lot of those picks didn't bear out. You know, Derek Lively was one of the picks that didn't bear out, but I thought he should have been a little higher than where they drafted him at. So I think that part of this draft has been clear. Now, as we said, you only need one player. You only need 2 players to join into a really good outfit and turn that thing around. And so there are plenty of good players in this draft.
Yeah.
And so a lot of it, I think, that will bear out is what happens when the trades start to kick. You know, do the Hawks stay at 1? You know, will some of the other teams that are in the 2, 3, 4, 5 that may, you know, see like the players they want get absorbed right away, and then know at 5 we're not going to get anybody near what we want? Do they start trading? Do they start slipping? Do they start moving? And those NBA trades right now, somebody wrote an article about this, and it's a little bit, I don't know if it's disturbing or not, but a lot of these gentlemen talk to each other. And a lot of these gentlemen aren't supposed to be talking to each other. They're tampering with another person's team, with another player's roster. You're not supposed to be doing that. But they do it, especially if they're friends, played in college together, know each other a long time. Of course they're doing it. But what happens is these formulations of these super teams, which leave the top of the NBA to fight it out amongst themselves and have good rosters, but it absolutely destroys the lower end of the league. And who's on the lower end? What are we talking about right there? We're talking about the Detroit Pistons. We're talking about the Portland Trail Blazers. We're talking about some of these non-major market cities that are absolutely the Charlotte Hornets right now are light years away from putting away a comparable, competitive NBA roster. They're just not even in the realm. And that's a problem for the NBA, because as much as they seek out parity, as much as they seek out a level playing field, right now you have players wanting to amalgamate and join teams where they're going to win, and you have other players that are shifting and constantly moving around the playground, just like in the college ranks right now. And so it makes it very, very difficult to hold on to what's going to be an NBA franchise. So right now you have the Hawks, they have Trae Young. They're talking about maybe we send Trae Young and the number 1 pick somewhere for something really, really good. Now, can you get 2 or 3 good players out of that? Probably. I wouldn't trade for Trae Young, and I wouldn't want the number 1 pick in this draft right now unless you're talking about getting a big man that's going to help shore you up. But right then, I just don't see, the value of doing that. And so now you got to find an NBA general manager that does see the value of doing that. And so that will happen within the next 2 weeks. Okay? And so that's going to be really interesting. The second piece of it as they go is there's a lot of open period AAU right now. And as much as Danny Hurley turned down Kentucky, and this is what I said to the Lakers, he turned down $14 million at Kentucky. And you thought he was going to take 11, 12 to come all the way out to L.A.? I think he really wants a shot at duplicating also. I think he wants a triple shot here. He wants the Triple Crown. And who could blame him? Who could blame him?
Well, and I think his family likes it at UConn. I think it's about his family, too.
Yeah. His wife, he said it was difficult to get his wife to move to Rhode Island. And that's real. And Los Angeles is a whole lot further than Rhode Island. And they have family back there. The Hurley family's in New Jersey. I believe his wife's family's in Jersey as well too. So that matters, and that has a lot to do with it. Okay, Pete, what's been your take on the series so far?
The Celtics are just cleaning the house.
Are you surprised it's been this easy?
No, because I think they got the boost with Porzingis coming back, even though he's shelved again. I think that gave them a confidence boost that they needed to kind of cruise this out, and they've been the class of the field all season.
No question.
This is just.
No question.
I thought they'd have a brain fart game, which they haven't had yet. So did they find all the pieces and did they get their head straight in the last series and say, yeah, this is ours. We're taking it.
They are just leveraging
Yeah.
the Mavericks right now, the same way that the Nuggets last year did to the Heat. They just have more, and they're just coming at you. You know, if I'm sitting on their bench, I'm going, yeah, I got Luka, I got Kyrie, and I'm starting, you know, this guy P.J. Washington. Nobody even knows who he is. And I'm starting this other guy, Daniel Gladden, or whatever his name is. Nobody even knows who these guys are. And then they're punishing me with Horford and Peyton Pritchard and Kobe White and some of these other guys. You know, if you can stop Brown and you can stop Tatum, which isn't easy to do, you know, then these other guys are just coming at you. You're sitting there as a coach, and I've been in this situation too before. You just, you know, you're the Dutch boy that has 10 fingers and there's 11 holes in the dike. And every time you take one finger out to plug up that other hole opens up. And so it's one of these things where you're just constantly plugging holes, but nonetheless, there's always that open hole on the other side. Have you been surprised that it was this easy?
No, I don't think so because, you know, like I said, I had him in 5. Like I said, I think the only thing that I thought was going to happen is they're going to have that brain fart game where they just check out for some reason and they get out of their rhythm and they get out of their game and they get beat. But they haven't even had that. There hasn't even been a hint of that.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. Not really. When you look at the fact that they really rarely lost back-to-back games this year, they would have, you know, the game where they would go out and you shake your head a little bit and go, oh, my God, they got trounced by that team, but then come right back and get back on calibration, come right back and get on plane.
Yeah.
So I think that was one of their biggest attributes during the year. And they did have those little hiccup games during the playoffs, and then, boom, click right back on and ready to go.
Yeah.
Right now, at 3-0, what's the Mavericks' mindset?
What do we do?
You know, or are they just
We're-
done? Are they just done? You know,
It's like seeing that wrestler that's got a 1-2, a 1-2, and a 1-2 with all their best finishers and going, what do I need to do to put this guy away?
yeah. It's almost like the Rocky movie, you know, where you just, you know, you're hitting them, and it's not really delivering that knockout blow. You know, they've gone at them. And I got to be honest, the 1-2 punch of Kyrie and Luka has been awful. It's been awful during this season. Credit to the Celtics and their defense. Credit to all of the good stuff that's going on around their organization. But, you know, we have a lot of Celtics fans that watch our show, a lot of Celtics fans that tune into our show, and we could not be happier to report to you that they're going to be, I believe it's 18, it's going to be the 18th franchise championship for the Boston Celtics, which is going to put them in rarefied air, and it is going to make them the number one team, the number one franchise of all time. It's an exciting time to be in New England. You have the UConn Huskies are absolutely knocking it out of the park on the college ranks. You got the Boston Celtics absolutely knocking it out of the NBA park. And you also have Cooper Flagg, A.J. Debonsa, the young stars coming up into the game. Cooper Flagg will attend Duke and be one of the top players in the NBA. And if I was going to put together a way to early draft for next year, Cooper Flagg's top 5 already. So, Pete, I don't know where we are with time. I think we're almost done, right?
I think we are, yeah.
All right. Beautiful job today, Pete. 90-minute segment in the zone. Our first one. I was ready today. I was fired up. I thought I might get a little tired, but that Canada Dry Ginger Ale kept me rolling today. So, again, folks, thank you so much for joining us. We hope you love the draft, and feel free to slam us, to jump on us, and take this thing apart, because that's what it's there for. It's there to create conversation. It's there to create a hoop culture. And right now, Zach Edey's our number one, Pete, and we love it. We'll see you next week in the zone, folks.